Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review No Man's Land. And this is a neo-western starring and written by Jake Allyn and directed by his brother Connor Allyn. So these two brothers bring this new age western to the screen with a young man played by Jake Allyn who is supposed to be a big prospect going into baseball and leaving his ranch life behind him. But his family's dealing with a lot of stuff on their ranch, and a group of immigrants being shepherded over from Mexico wander upon, and tragedy strikes. And this young man, played by Jake Allyn, is on the run from the father of a slain young boy, a crazy other person who's involved in this whole trafficking of people, and you have a Texas Ranger played by George Lopez. Interesting choice of acting there. Now, big picture here, this film very much feels like in the same vein of a lot of what Taylor Sheridan does with his films like Sicario, Hell or High Water, Wind River, the show Yellowstone. But it never quite reaches up to that level. This film has a lot of potential. Connor Allyn does a really fine job of directing this film, bringing some energy to it, but there are points where it does lag a bit, because this film is an hour and 55 minutes and feels like this story about this young man running over into Mexico and trying to find closure for what he did in this terrible moment in his life. It feels like it just keeps going and going and going, and there's one or two too many little asides, and the momentum doesn't keep up. But how it's shot, how the tension is built, that works. And then you have the script. You have a bunch of characters that aren't particularly interesting. That's the thing. Nobody in this film really has a whole lot of depth to their character. And probably the most interesting character is this Texas Ranger, and a lot of that comes from George Lopez, who's an interesting casting choice here, but he brings some life into this Texas Ranger, and is very interesting because he's somebody who won't use force if he can help it. And does that mean that this film keeps getting dragged on because this young man just keeps getting away, this young man named Jackson? And yeah, he does keep getting away. And of course, George Lopez isn't catching up to a baseball prospect. That's not happening. And that just keeps going, but there are some really nice moments that there's quite a few times where Jackson, played by Jake Allyn, winds up connecting with a nice family or a nice person and having some sweet moments. They're nice and they're filmed well, they're built up well, but it just feels repetitive after a while. And there's also a bit of convenience and lack of logic in some of the plot points and how this comes together. But by the end, this has a pretty impactful ending. It's very tense, it's emotional, and it delivers. But along the way, you have solid performances, definitely shout-outs, like I mentioned, George Lopez. You have Frank Grillo, who basically plays the same kind of guy. He's the patriarch of this ranch, and he's a tough guy, playing a tough guy role. And you have Andie MacDowell, who doesn't have a whole lot to do, but she's fine as the mother of this family. And probably one of the Jorge A. Jimenez, who plays Gustavo, the shepherd and the father of the slain young boy, he has some really strong moments, and him and Jake Allyn have quite a moment towards the end of the film that I think is really important and drives home the themes of the film. But in the end, I feel like this film is a lot of strong ideas and potential, but doesn't quite get to the point where I'd say this is a good movie and that I would watch it again. I think if you really enjoy westerns, I think you'll get enough out of the film. But if you're not a fan of the genre, I don't know if this film has enough in it to make it worth checking out and spending almost 2 hours with this story and these characters. But those are my thoughts on No Man's Land. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.